Michael has shared some very rich similes and metaphors, analogies with the butterfly here today. And in keeping with that theme, I'll try to weave a few of those ideas in here. We are now at about day 150 or so of AlliancePay. We took a summary of what we have achieved through day 135. And as I want to work to impress upon you today, the achievements that we have gotten under our belts now will actually power a lot of value moving forward. Back in Barcelona, we said that we wanted to create some dynamic blockchain utility and payments utility. We said that we wanted to develop a solution whereby we could capture and convert that store of value represented by DasCoin. Remember, store of value is one of the three basic properties of money. We said that we want to be one of the very few digital assets, one of the very few cryptocurrencies in the world that is actually generating commercial liquidity. We said in generating commercial liquidity, we want to positively contribute to the aggregate DasCoin trading liquidity on the various trading venues and exchanges around the world. And we said that we want to develop a solution whereby DasCoin can actually power real-world merchant transactions in various global currencies all over the world. So in our first 135 days, we have succeeded in inviting more than 60% of KYC compliant members, those people who are DAS wallet compliance from KYC and AML standpoint, into this proof of concept. We now have cardholders on 6 continents. Moreover, we have settled transactions in currencies that originate on 6 continents. We have now processed transactions in 25 global currencies. Yes. As of a couple weeks ago, we have successfully processed and settled more than 350 transactions to date. Our average transaction size is a little bit over 21 euro. And in just a few moments, we're going to understand why that is important. So the euro, in terms of the transactions being processed, represents about 40.2% of all activity taking place with these digital cards. These are some logos. It bears mentioning we do not have a contractual relationship. We're just, for informational purposes only, we have these logos up here. Our cardholders will have recognized these logos in visiting the websites and conducting e-commerce transactions. So we see a lot of recognizable global names: Facebook, Domino's Pizza, Netflix, Starbucks, Kindle, Tesco, Amazon, even some airlines. iTunes is up there. So these are among the most recognizable corporate giants in the world. And we've been able to utilize the AlliancePay digital card to actually conduct business with these companies. As I talked about in Barcelona, and for the better half of more than 2 years now, there are 2 types of trading liquidity. We have speculative, which means non-commercial, so when people want to buy and sell for trying to make a profit. We also have commercial trading liquidity, which refers to non-speculative, people who actually want to buy something in order to spend it. That is what we are seeing with AlliancePay. That is what is actually taking place with DasCoin. So one question that we posed that I was very intellectually curious about is, how would the fact that AlliancePay starts with a cryptocurrency, a digital asset called DasCoin, how would that change the consumer behavior that we are seeing? If you remember what I said a little while ago, a few moments ago, we said that our average transaction size is approximately 21 euro and 43 cents. When we take a survey of global card activity, the average spend is $81 on credit cards. Debit card average spend is about $37. Prepaid cards is about $24. And with AlliancePay, if you do the conversion between the euro and US dollar, the current spot rate, you can see that our average spend is right there consistent with the US average for prepaid cards. That means people, stated differently, that means people, our cardholders, really have no problem selling their DasCoin and actually using that store of value to actually power their consumer behavior decisions, their purchases. So this is a major validating point that we are making here. It validates the fact that DasCoin is proving to be a store of value that people have confidence in to convert that value to fiat and actually power these merchant transactions. I want to take just a few moments to highlight maybe 4 of my most favorite transactions we've seen so far. One of our attendees here today actually did this transaction quite a while ago now, back in August. This was done on AirAsia, and a person actually used their AlliancePay digital card to purchase an airline ticket. So at the bottom here, we can see what's called the merchant category code, MCC. That's a category that's published by Visa and MasterCard to basically classify transactions. So airline travel is a reality with DasCoin. Another one that we saw recently was the payment of some government fees. This took place in Ireland. So a lot of us are accustomed to paying fees, tolls for using bridges, roads, etc., highways. Person actually used their AlliancePay card to pay these fees for the government. So that was a very interesting use case. Another one that I really liked related to school fees. So someone here who's in attendance here today recently did a transaction. This is the actual report where the person's, I believe his daughter, school fees were actually paid through this solution called Parent Pay. And perhaps my favorite one, and there's a series of these transactions, is something called Just Giving. One of the persons who undertook some of these transactions is actually here today. And we've seen other charitable giving transactions. Autism Speaks is one. People are using the AlliancePay solution to make donations via Facebook. There's another one in the UK, I believe it's called Penny Appeal or something to that effect. But the fact that this involves an eleemosynary, a charitable endeavor, a charitable giving, I think is a great use case that shows how relevant AlliancePay can be and this type of solution can be in our lives. This is a comprehensive list of the 25 different currencies that we have settled transactions in. So we see a lot of the biggies like the euro, US dollar, British pound. We see some African currencies as well, some Scandinavian currencies. We also have transactions in South American currencies. We have the Colombian peso. So we are showing that through major payment networks, we are able to capture that value and convert that value to foreign exchange. So we've talked a lot about foreign exchange utility and developing that and working to grow that. And we have now obviously proven more than 350 times that we can do that. And if you think about doing that 350 times within the context of a proof of concept, we can begin to understand all of the foreign exchange liquidity and utility that we can develop with DasCoin in a much larger commercial application. This is just a graph. The blue area represents that euro. Again, that's about 40.2% of all transactions in the first 135 days. I want to take a moment here to think about something I just said. I just said that we have processed transactions in 25 different currencies around the world. If we think about the countries that have those currencies, from a global population standpoint, that represents about 62% of our global population. And if we think about it from a gross domestic product standpoint, that represents about 81% of global GDP. Those countries whose currencies we've actually successfully processed transactions in. That implication for DasCoin is huge. That means that DasCoin, as it stands today, our addressable market, just having processed transactions in those currencies, we can be relevant to 62% of the global population with the technology that we have validated in this proof of concept. And from a global GDP standpoint, that number is above 80%. That is a huge thing to take into account and consider. The size of the addressable market for this mission that we've all been on now for more than 2 years. This is a simple screenshot here, one of the transactions. We started out with just over 1,200 DasCoin in somebody's AlliancePay account in Das Wallet, and then after the transaction, there was just under 900 DasCoin. So if you look at the difference there, it's about 316 DasCoin. This is an actual screenshot of the block on the blockchain where this transaction took place. And this was the result. Somebody purchased a pizza in Australia. He may be here today, Thomas. So this is a transaction that was done several months ago. And interestingly, pizza seems to be the fast food item that is purchased the most using AlliancePay. So our friends in Australia and the UK are fond of Domino's. Our Singaporean friends seem to be fond of Pizza Hut. And our Thai friends, I think you're here today, are fond of Pizza Company. So we talk about that a little bit in jest, but when you think about the richness of data, those consumer data that are actually generated by these transactions, we have an abundance of data that is of great value to Domino's, to Pizza Hut, to Pizza Company, and to all of these other merchants. We looked at some of their logos earlier. So the implication for payments technology and the value that we can begin to share with third parties, if that's a road we want to take, is an important consideration. Now, I know a lot of you are here because you heard the rumors, and I'm happy to tell you, rumors no longer. Physical payment cards have arrived. Yes. The physical payment cards are physically at this table here. They're being safeguarded by the beautiful Mrs. Semku. Brian's wife is actually a trained ninja. That's why she's wearing black. She trained under Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, and you may recognize her from her cameo in Enter the Dragon 4. So go near her at your own peril. But the cards are here. And our next speaker, Brian, will be elaborating on the cards a little bit more. The reason why the cards are important, not only are they physical, they're tangible, we can put them in our wallets, our purses, we can spend them. They're important from a transactional standpoint because they engender trading velocity. I talked about trading velocity in Barcelona a few months ago. And trading velocity is the speed at which a dollar or a euro or a dirham or a DasCoin or a Bitcoin exchanges hands, goes from buyer to seller, from importer to exporter. And economies that are functioning well have high trading velocities. These units of exchange, these currencies, these cryptocurrencies, they move from one person to another very quickly. So when we can begin to appreciate that these physical cards can be used in very, very short order, we can begin to understand that that will unlock a significant amount of trading velocity that does not exist, because for the previous 150 days, we have been limited in this proof of concept to online commerce, to e-shopping, to internet shopping. That is all changing. So we have 43 million reasons to smile. MasterCard is accepted at about 40 million locations around the world. We've talked about that now for more than 2 years. We've talked about how we want to be able to bring our store of value to tens of millions of locations, addressable opportunities, spending opportunities around the world. And when we factor in the number of ATMs, automated teller machines around the world, there are about 3 million of them, we arrive at about 43 million places around the world where this form factor can be used. Now, for the ATM part, because we are working with the world's leading second-generation processing company, we have the ability to parameterize exactly how the ATM is going to be used. The card can be used at ATMs. So we will be making an announcement about that in the coming days. So where do we go from here? So we now have the physical cards for our existing digital card holders, and for the so-called Barcelona 500 group of attendees who have not yet registered an account or been invited to participate, they will be receiving their cards in the mail in very short order. Those cards will probably be produced this week and then mailed thereafter. And then we have, yes. We are hard at work on delivering the next phase, which is the commercial card phase, which is a card for everybody. So I think our next speaker will elaborate on that progress in just a couple minutes. We also have the idea of DasPay. We've been talking about this for a while. When you actually see the cards, you'll see this logo on the top right. That is the contactless logo. So DasPay is a solution that contemplates taking contactless payments to the next level, which is something called host card emulation, HCE, which is the ability to store that physical form factor on a mobile device and also use it contactlessly at merchants that have host card emulation and NFC enablement activated. So DasPay is a solution that encompasses solutions and features like that, but also it goes one step further. When we think about a major payment network, a payment scheme like MasterCard or Visa, JCB, China UnionPay, those are intermediaries. Those are third-party networks where transactions take place. One of the ideas and value propositions that we are hanging our hats on with DasPay is the ability to actually become that payment network ourselves, to not necessarily have to rely upon Visa or MasterCard or JCB or China UnionPay. In other words, instead of using those third-party intermediaries, we want a solution that can actually disintermediate, where we as a consumer can actually transact and conduct business with a merchant mobile device to mobile device without having to move over those rails of Visa or MasterCard. In fact, to move over our own rails. And our next speaker can elaborate on some of the technology and ideas that are that actually make up DasPay and what we want to achieve. But these are all technological realities now. The deployment of these solutions is not a technological challenge. They're merely business decisions. So that is one of the ideas between an open loop and closed loop solutions. This is a photograph that I took just about 1 year ago. This was after last year's Dubai event. A number of us went to Singapore and had the privilege of attending an event that was where we saw the Jim Rogers here, the well-known investor, speaking with Michael. And one of the questions that Jim Rogers asked Michael, he said, look, I'm an old school guy. What is really the value behind these digital assets, these cryptocurrencies? And one of the interesting answers that Michael gave, which I thought about for a few moments, and then a light bulb went off, he simply said, the value is in the network. So when you think about a community that has tens of thousands of members, that foundation is very strong. And upon that foundation, we can layer solutions that no other cryptocurrency or digital asset really has. So there's obviously a lot of attention and focus, and I would dare say maybe myopia. People are myopic, tick by tick, watching the price, this and that. And price is important, I understand. But one thing that I focus on rather than price is value creation. I'm not worried about valuation and the minute-to-minute, hour-to-hour, day-to-day fluctuations. I'm more concerned with what can we all be doing to drive sustainable long-term value. Because if you get that part right, the valuation follows. So platformization is what we've been seeing in this digital economy for the past 15 or 20 years. So we've been seeing real-time transaction processing. We've been seeing flexible architectures. We've been seeing connectivity to third-party services via application program interfaces. We've seen the ability to connect multiple users, multiple devices, and the ability to leverage data for user-enhanced and value-added services. This is a snapshot of another solution that I think can drive long-term sustainable value to this community. This is a contemplation, a model of a challenger bank, a so-called digital bank, a neobank. So we see a lot of different components there. There's risk and fraud, debit cards, monitoring, integration, marketplace services, account management, etc. Back in 2002, 2003, approximately 50% of all customer banking interactions were physically taking place inside a bank branch. 15 years later, that is down below 10%. And within 3 years from now, it is estimated that about 50% of all banking transactions will be taking place on channels that are not owned by banks, on channels that are owned by third parties. So these are made possible, rendered possible by consumer-centric regulations such as PSD2 that we've seen in Europe, which is making it much easier to provide banking and financial type services to clients. This is another direction for the future, not so distant future, I might add, that we can move in. So in summary here, blockchain utility solutions successfully created. We have elevated transparency. The debits on these transactions can be seen in the blockchain. So what we are also seeing is some smart cardholders are actually purchasing DasCoin on third-party exchanges. They're averaging down their overall price of DasCoin, which is a great financial strategy. And in the process of doing so, they're actually creating commercial DasCoin liquidity. In fact, as I think we'll hear this week during one presentation, one person who is doing this in particular is actually coming out ahead. He's actually making a nice little profit in doing so, which is the same thing as getting a coupon from the merchant that you're buying the item from. So we have hundreds of transactions that have been successfully processed and settled. We're settling transactions across multiple industries, 25 currencies. We talked about FX utility. Our spending habits are consistent with global usage and industry trends. And as these physical cards start to circulate, we're going to see greater penetration and greater usage, obviously, in the market because these cards are mobile. So we've also established a great foundation for DasPay and other financial, banking, financial services related transactions, which will lead to value creation. And in doing all of this, we have successfully reduced friction. Reducing friction is one of the inherent themes behind blockchain and the mobile telephone and financial services, and we are definitely accomplishing that. Thank you very much.